Before we talk about the actual CameraMatch plugins, let's talk about the photographs we plan to use with CameraMatch. The first thing I want to talk about is special lenses, and that is when you're taking the actual pictures, don't use any special lenses to straighten verticals out, which are very common in architecture. While they might make for a nicer looking architectural image, they produce images that are not as natural, and that makes it difficult for CameraMatch and for Vectorworks to match. So just use a typical lens, as the image on the right here. And this actually, I'm just kind of highlighting how the verticals are not perfectly parallel, and it's just a more natural image, and those vanishing points can be determined accurately from that image. Okay, now even with a normal lens, there are certain views that can be more difficult to match as well, and it's mainly a pretty much head-on shot that really mimics more of a one-point perspective view. And when you do a shot like this, the one pair of elements in the photo that define a vanishing point become parallel. In this case, we got two verticals that are pretty close to parallel, but even more so, the red lines defining the right vanishing point are very close to parallel, and just one pixel up or down can make a huge difference in the location of that right vanishing point, or it could even reverse it into the opposite direction. Now, just to talk about these lines I've drawn here, these are actually mimicking controls that are in the CameraMatch object. CameraMatch has 3 pairs of control lines, one for each of the 3 vanishing points, a right, a left, and vertical vanishing point. So each pair of these lines converge at the vanishing point, so they need to have an accurate placement to do that. And when these lines become so parallel, it becomes difficult to define that. Okay, so here are some images that did work. Here, the one vanishing point happens to be right here, the left vanishing point defined by the green lines. The right one is far off to the right, but these lines are nowhere near parallel. They still have plenty of angle between them. In fact, this view would really work even if the left point was closer to the center. Just try not to get it so close that it's dead on. And the same again for the image to the right there. And just to show you how these worked out, you can see the results in these 2 images. Now, I don't have the final rendering for this, but you can see how the alignment did work out. Another thing to keep in mind when taking the photographs, this might be a little obvious, or might seem a little obvious, but it's very common to kind of overlook when you're out on the site and just worrying about the existing structure. If you want to use these images for CameraMatch, think about the area that the new part is going to take up, and make sure that you get plenty of room to fit that in the photograph. The last thing you want to do is have the new part sticking out past the photo, and then you'll have it clipped off. The next is barrel distortion. It seems to be worse usually in wider angle lenses, but even in other lenses as well, usually it has some amount of barrel distortion. And now I've exaggerated this slightly in this image with these lines, but it's to demonstrate how the view could be incorrect when placing control lines in CameraMatch. Here you see this red line kind of curving along here. If I decided to place in CameraMatch a control line on this left side of the line and this left side of the line, then they're going to converge far off to the left. But if I put them more to the right of the image, then they're going to be far off to the right. Or if I put one over here somewhere on the left and the other one closer on the right, it's going to actually put it far off and at a different angle. So it could really throw things off. So you want to correct for barrel distortion. And I mentioned in the manual some software, inexpensive software, that does this job very well, and usually with just one click. So it's well worth doing and solves a lot of problems before you get into CameraMatch.